morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 55 of the True North Eager Beaver Interview Project, also known as episode number 424 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, here on the Cryon Media Network. Yeah! Extra jazz hands today. See? Even Mr. Grizzly's doing the jazz pause. All right. Today, recording day is, we are Monday, July 8th.
And I'm the one on vacation.
Exactly. For broadcast on Friday, July, I have to look at the calendar here, 12th. 2024. I have no idea what kind of day it's going to be at the Beaver Lodge because I did not look at the weather that far ahead, but I assume it's going to be a good one. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a special treat for you today. I am so happy. But before we do that, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Well, sir, my mental health is Jim Dandy, super fine and great. Mostly because I spent the last day and yesterday, today in the Rockies, in the mountains. We went up to Jasper as we did, I did the show this morning live from Jasper,
right, from
the Lobstick, is it Inn or Lobstick Hotel or Lobstick Lodge in Jasper and beautiful downtown Jasper. And then I recreated a scene from 50 years ago, almost to the day. It was very close to my birthday 50 years ago when my dad and I we were camping, and we went up Whistler Mountain, took the tram up, went up to the top, walked around. So I took a couple of photos with my arm extended as if my dad was there. I'm going to Photoshop them in and then do a photo thing with the original photo, the actual 35 millimeter camera photo of myself and my dad. Now, the thing was, when we were up there, there's snow on the mountain, but it was really warm, like really warm up there. When I was there 50 years ago, the entire cap, everything was covered in snow.
Right.
And it was cold. I wore a parka. Today, I could have went up in shorts and a T-shirt, as most people were. There's still some snow there, but not like it was. And if you go to the summit, there's no snow at all. Wow. So for those of you saying climate change isn't real, it is. It is very real.
All right. Things are good at this end, and I do not want to talk about me all too much right now because we have a guest with us today. Guest we've been trying to get back for a while, but
we've all been
he
busy.
Is extremely busy. But he has become, over the course of the years, one of the most beloved figures in Canadian media, and someone who delivers such a quality product in such a wonderfully authentic way that there is absolutely no way that you cannot be impressed with the work that he does. He is here made time for us, especially because he's very, very busy, because he's on a way to take a trip someplace very important where something big is going to be happening.
My favorite city in the world is where he's going. So that if those of you
Oh,
who know what that is, you'll know where that is.
yes. Alors, pour lui souhaiter un bon voyage à Paris, kids and cubs, please put your paws up and give a big round of applause for Mr. Devin Heroux.
And I was wondering if you were going to speak French, because that's when you were going to lose me, despite the fact that I have been practicing and, of course, was in Montreal for the track and field trials just recently. Listen, beautiful words from you. Wonderful to see both of you. A word on the forecast. We won't know what it's like on Friday, but I do have a forecast. Summer is coming.
Yes.
Summer is coming.
Yes.
And that, of course, is Summer McIntosh, the 17-year-old swimming sensation. What a time. What a time for Canadian athletics. And Paul, I know you were in the Rockies. I'll never forget one of our Canadian coaches who said gold medals are won in those Rockies, training in altitude, training in Alberta. So such a great legacy there. So a little tip of the cap, of course, to Alberta that, of course, punches above its weight, and the 1988 Olympics there. Absolutely. And you say Yahoo, not yeehaw. Yahoo.
That's right. Yeah. They actually have Yahoo signs you can pose at Stampede, not yeehaw, Yahoo.
Oh, you know the tourists. I lived in Calgary. You know the tourists when they roll in and they say yeehaw. What? You're not from here.
You're new here, aren't you?
Anyway, I digress. Beautiful to see both of you, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's our
Thanks
pleasure.
for coming back.
As we always ask, how's your mental health doing today?
You know what? I think in these closing days before I embark on a 2-month journey, and I know the grind that is the Olympics followed by the Paralympics, there's always some nerves. I'll be honest about that. There's a little bit of overwhelm of, am I actually ready for the big exam? And I would say, as I talk to you both right now, I think I am, because I live this every single day, and I have lived this. So as I talk through this therapy session, I'm feeling a wave of calm washing over me as we get ready for these games. It really is some anxiousness mixed with a ton of excitement. I would imagine that's how many of the athletes are feeling as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So this is your which games now? How many?
Fourth consecutive, where I'm doing both. And I think I am one of few journalists in the world who does both. So
yes, that's true.
And I'm glad, right? Because I think for me personally, it says I value and respect the Olympics as much as I do the Paralympics. And that hasn't always been the case. So if I'm gonna walk the walk, I might as well be there for both, because they're of equal importance, no doubt.
They really are. And we on this show, we've been not only promoting Paralympics since we started this show, but we will praise and talk about the success of Canadian Paralympians in their pursuit of gold. Because, you'll have people say, well, I don't really watch it because I'm like, tell you what, why don't you do what that person did with one leg, or blind, or I dare you to do it. Right. Do you know how much more dedication and effort they have to put in?
Yeah.
Remember, there's no possibility for the most part of any sort of payoff financially from any of this.
Right.
Even if you win the gold medals, you could be the greatest Paralympian in history. There's no guarantee you're going to make a penny off of this.
Right.
So the sacrifices that are made by the individual athletes and their families to do this,
Like I watched that gold ball final with the team, like when the team qualified. It's like, that was exciting. I loved it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is actually one of my favorite sporting memories in my career. Santiago, the Para-Pan Am Games, a ticket to the Paralympics on the line, Canada versus USA. These Americans, in typical American fashion, were smack talking and loud and brash, and our Canadian gals just stayed the course. and they had a couple of penalty shots that they cashed in on, and the American coach was beside himself, and I'm trying to be this objective reporter that's pacing in the media tribune, and
but you're going, yeah. Inside.
Have you ever been in a gym when goal ball is happening? It's the strangest thing, because it's all, I mean, they're blind. They have the covers over their eyes, and the ball has the bells and whatnot in it for them to track. So it is silent in there. If I
Which
make
is not
any sort
normal, right?
It isn't. No, you're the crowd, and you're whipping people into a frenzy. Meanwhile, here, everything, you can literally hear a pin drop in the ball. And then they score, and then there's this massive eruption, and then it's silent again. But the Canadians won, stunned the Americans, clinched the Paralympic berth. And I'm telling you, these women are ready to take on the world in Paris. So pay attention to them. I'm so glad you said that, because they're one of the great teams, led by Amy Burke. If you ever need a pep talk, phone Amy Burke from the Canadian Paralympic goalball team. She'll have you running through walls by the end of that speech.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Nice.
Love that.
Yeah.
Paul, since you were mentioning it, I wanted to bring it up too. I did not know this, but I had learned after, I believe it was Tokyo, or maybe it was the Winter Olympics, that the podium portion that was rewarding athletes for medals had not been offered as well to our para athletes all along.
No.
Well, at all. And so just a couple of facts on this, because I reported on it during the Beijing Olympics, where Canadian Olympians were being financially rewarded for their medals, and Canadian Paralympians were not. It blew up. I believe if you win gold, 20,000, 15 for silver, 10,000. This is through the Canadian Olympic Foundation. So they have been doing some of their own enterprising in the background, but they found a way to make it work. And that was because corporate Canada, sponsors, other people saw value in that. The Canadian Paralympic Committee could not get there, couldn't even have that conversation. And until just recently, a philanthropist and a wonderful man who I've gotten to know, Sanjay Malavia, stepped up, I believe, with a $5 million donation. And so for the first time in the country's sporting history, when a Canadian Olympian and a Canadian Paralympian win a medal in Paris, it will be the same amount.
That's spectacular.
Yes. And what we're saying to Canada and to Canadians is an Olympic medal is the same as a Paralympic medal.
Yes, it is.
Because you work just as hard to get it. Period.
If not harder.
If not harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And that's not taking away anything from anyone. It's just a simple statement of fact. That's it.
Yeah. So it's going to be a beautiful thing. I mean, I think of Senator Chantal Petitclerc, the powerhouse, who was racking up all those medals in the 90s and 2000. Yeah. She'd be rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 18 Paralympic medals or something like that? I did the math. I think it came, she would have made $400,000, somewhere in the neighborhood of that. That actually, not only does it change the livelihood of the Paralympian, it actually prolongs careers because you're able to get the proper nutrition, the proper physio, travel to events. So this is, to me, these games are ushering a completely new chapter in the Canadian athletic experience. And I think it's getting us to reimagine what sport means in all of our lives as Canadians, whether it be elite sport and winning medals or being active in your community. I think we're finally starting to connect some dots that I don't think have always happened in this country.
Yes. I'm sure Aurélie Rivard and Benoit Huet would have loved that too.
Exactly.
Just saying.
So I have a question, and I guess it's for both of you, and choose to answer it or not answer it or respond in any way you wish. But here's my question, and it was my friend who I'm staying with here in Calgary who said, you should ask this question. I said, you know what? That's a valid question.
Mm.
Our current government, as you know, passed a budget recently. And we know the opposition voted no on absolutely everything.
Mm.
Now, I'm curious, what would the Own the Podium program look like if the leader of the loyal opposition was prime minister right now? Do either one of you have any thoughts on that? Talk about it or not, whatever. It's up to you. He asked me this. He said, you should ask this question. I go, you know what? That's a really good question.
Mm.
And I don't have an answer for that. I have a feeling, but I don't have an answer. But my feeling is, oh, he probably would have cut that budget and found a way to cut it, to say, well, we don't need this. That's not important.
I have a
That's
feeling
my
he
feeling.
wouldn't. I have a feeling he wouldn't dare.
Yeah, you think?
I think that would be a bridge. I think there would be a revolt.
Hmm.
There are certain things PR-wise that are not worth the cost, and
I think it would have been a quiet cut, though.
Canada's such a fair play country that I think if that he went there would be a revolt.
Hmm.
It would be something people remember and feel.
I would tend to agree with that. I know some things, so I'll be cagey with my with my response to that. Firstly, I think we need to very, very closely look at the Own the Podium funding model. You know, I think you know, when we investigated abuse in sport, our groundbreaking abuse in sport in 2018, which, you know, let me just say, this is not humble of me, but let me just say that was ahead of its time. And I actually think that in a lot of ways, a lot of people weren't ready at that time to have that conversation because of the pushback we received while we were doing that investigation. And I think specifically as it tied to funding models and winning at all costs, right? Because at the end of the day, if your funding model is inextricably tied to gold, silver, bronze, you're going to allow things to happen in the shadowy underbellies of sport that if it wasn't tied to, you probably would call out. So that would be the first thing I would say is I think we probably need to look at that. So it might not particularly be the worst thing if there was a revamp of it. That being said, I think that, you know, how many times have we heard shut up and dribble? And saying, you know, don't mix politics with sport. The reality of it is sport is inherently political.
It is.
We're going to see that.
It's a proxy for so many things.
On steroids. And I've always said that I think sport has this disarming ability to bring all walks of life to the table and say, hey, we're watching the game, but let's have a conversation about Black Lives Matter. And what happens when the elite Black basketball players don't take to the court when another innocent Black person has been shot or killed at the hands of police? So the pendulum has swung in a way where the athletes have this power and privilege, but I think we can all agree that there's not much that unifies a country in the way that a great sporting event does.
Yep.
We're seeing it in Copa America, and of course, by the time we talk, we'll know the result against Argentina, and who knows what will happen. But I think, political stripes aside, I think our Canadian government, whatever party is in power, understands the unifying power of sport. And I would hope that whoever is the ruling party of the day would invest more, not in the highest echelon of sport, but in the grassroots sport where the young kids are getting a chance to understand life lessons through sport. So that's how I would answer that. Maybe it would be shifted from Own the Podium, and I don't know if that would be a bad thing if it was spread into other places in society.
Now, I'm glad you sort of segged that way, because that was one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about, is when those investigations were taking place. I mean, it was all over. I think alpine skiing, boxing, curling, gymnastics, Hockey, of course. That was the one that got the most attention.
Yeah.
But there was bobsleigh Canada. I mean, we lost Katie Humphries.
Kelly.
Kelly Humphries. Kelly? Yeah.
Kelly.
Kaylee, not Katie. Kaylee.
Kaylee?
Yeah, Kaylee Humphries.
She's a beast.
And then there's certain more. I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but it was, and they weren't all necessarily the same thing, right? Like some of them were sexual abuse and whatnot. A lot of them was psychological abuse. Some people were just being lied to. I think the boxer, I think, was like had to fight for the right to be able to qualify because she had been pregnant, whatnot, and or something like that. And
Yeah,
I mean,
that was Mandy Bujold. Yeah.
So
And
I mean,
who was
it's,
the
it's
weightlifter?
different things, but
The weightlifter who they made her change weight classes.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like,
Did she win gold in Tokyo? Was it Maud Sharon? I can't remember.
I'm drawing a blank. Sorry. I keep seeing her with the Michael J. Fox voiceover. And I can't.
I think it was Maud Sharon.
Maud Sharon.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, it was everywhere. And, I don't know if you mentioned Rowing Canada, but Rowing Canada was under fire. And if you look at the rowing team going to Paris, it's decimated.
There's two boats.
Two boats. And we are such a proud rowing nation. I was just in Atlanta looking at the plaques and everything in Centennial Park. And there's Marnie McBean and Kathleen Heddle, who, of course, were it, right? So
we had Derek Porter back then too, in those days too, and it was a big deal.
Silken Lauman,
yes, Silken won a silver there, good one. So many of our sporting heroes. Yeah, I think as we were digging into that, and of course we looked at it sort of at the lower grassroots level, because to your point, it did get a little murky, right? Like safe sport was the buzzword, but we lost sight of the plot. We lost the plot because you were conflating sexual abuse with not getting massage therapy, with not getting the proper sled for Bobsleigh Canada. And it to be honest with you, it was dizzying and it was messy. And so much of the conversation, I think, got off track because of that.
Yeah.
Because I think in some ways you were sort of trying to create a moral hierarchy of what safe sport was, when it was all really bad, when it was all really toxic. And again, I think having talked to experts and survivors, the bottom line, the common thread throughout all of it was people's desires to be the great thing, to be the greatest they could be. And their coach or the president of the federation or whoever it was held this sort of fairy gold dust to their future. And that's when grooming would happen. I mean, I think of the great alpine skier Alison Forsyth, who devoted her life to this now.
Right.
She was groomed and singled out and siloed, and she can spot a groomer a mile away, and it's still happening. And think about it. Sport might be one of the better places if you're a predator. It is a breeding ground to feed on an athlete's desire to be picked.
Well, also, if a child is a prodigy, they're already touring the world at 13, 14, 15 years old. I'm thinking the tennis players that are traveling around the world at 14, 15.
Yeah.
Like this, they're not all traveling with their parents.
Right. And it's kind of gone away because it's not the it thing to talk about anymore. And I think in a lot of ways, people almost got safe sport fatigue, right? Because
there was a lot.
It was a lot. And yet the battle continues, and it will always continue. It really will. And, Kyle Schufelt, the Olympic gymnast champion, is really, really smart on this. And he said, until we start to rip apart the entire framework and make it about fun and activity, this will persist. I don't know how much you guys know about the Norwegian model, but they actually have a guiding document in their parliament that's called The Joy of Sport for All. I've looked into this. And they do not keep track of score. They don't track times if you're skiing until the kids are teenagers, until they're 14 years old in the country. More than 90% of youth are enrolled in organized sport in Norway. The parents all go to the practices because it's a social outing. Everybody knows everyone. It's about community. Everybody has access to facilities. And then if you're good at it when you're 14 or 15, there's a path for you. And guess what? One country professes to own the podium. Another country doesn't at all, has fun, and actually does own the podium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Norway has led the top of the medal standings at the last 4 or 5 Winter Games in a nation that's small. Go figure. Joy, fun, community, and winning. What a thought.
Well, a nation that has a population that is less than Toronto.
Bingo.
Right.
But there's joy, there's friendship, and there's not this win at all cost mentality. And what a lesson to all of us about what that can mean in sport in life, right? So.
Oh yeah. Oh. Well, I noticed my sister, she has 3 sons, and the youngest one, who it was his birthday on Friday too, by the way.
Nice.
I just want to call out my nephew Kieran. It was his birthday as well. He's 13 now, and his minor hockey association, if one team scores, I'll say 4 goals, and the other team hasn't scored it, they stop keeping score.
Right.
It's like they don't count anything after that. And I thought that's ridiculous. And then it was explained to me why. Because we know the other team, we know this team won, this team is not winning, but there's no salt in the wounds if there's no score recorded. Right. And I thought, I think there's some merit to that. Now, I'm not an athlete, so.
Well, I grew up in a hockey family, and I'm telling you right now, when I posed the question to them, could you imagine if in Canada you told those novice prodigies and those crazy hockey parents, we're not keeping score. We don't know how many goals and assists you have because we're not keeping score. We're just going to learn the skills and have fun. Can you imagine the outcry, the pushback in this country?
They got pushback for that in that hockey association.
Right.
They got a ton of pushback.
Right.
But in the end, it turns out to be better because, like you said, they're kids. Let them have some fun. Let them learn the skills.
We don't need to know it was 11-0.
No.
Right.
This team won 4-0. That's it. 11-0. That's not important.
But I can tell you right now, I bet you damn well Johnny knows how many goals he scored. Despite the fact that it's not up on the scoreboard, he knows.
Well, and his parent is probably in there keeping score and running. Got a spreadsheet on their phone.
Ice time. How much ice time? Why was my kid not out in the last 5 minutes?
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. Oh man. All right. I cannot not talk about curling.
Okay. I guess we can.
Yes, we can.
All right, if you'll allow it. All right, because my viewership would probably have my tail if I did not ask you, because everybody was asking what was going on.
Yeah.
Brianne Harrison.
Okay. Harris.
Now,
Brianne Harris.
Harris. Sorry, not Harrison. Harris. Now, not so much the scan, not so much what it ended up being.
Yeah.
But how it was handled.
Yeah.
Leaving the doubt. That's what, because it created a vacuum and a lot of people were trying to fill in the blanks with what they needed, wanted, wished to be true for whatever it is that they were trying to do to work.
Yeah.
And that could not have been good for the team, nor for her.
Yeah. So I'll walk you through that, because I actually took a lot of offense to people wanting to know. It's none of their business, quite honestly. And I think it was handled exactly how it should have been handled. You guys both know my journalism. I'm a fearless keeper of the truth, and I like to think I hold people to account. It can be difficult in the sports world because you want that cachet. You want to be part of the group, the inner circle. It's a problem with sports journalism. I've never pertained to that, and I've always asked the tough questions. When that news broke 24 hours, less than 24 hours ahead of their opening game as a four-time defending Scottish champions, it was a bombshell, and my phone blew up, and I was hard on Curling Canada and every one of my sources. Because I've done a lot of work on doping cases as well. It became very apparent very quickly to me that this was likely a doping violation. And I knew that very early on, and had sourced that. However, the missing part for me was I didn't know if it was what it was, right? It could have been an out of competition violation. It could have been a cough medicine. It could have been whatever. So we had a lengthy discussion at CBC about the merits of breaking a story that would be a headline of Brianne Harris found guilty of a doping violation, but we don't know what it is and we don't know the details of it, which quite honestly, I thought would have only further fueled speculation. Speculation was already rampant. You did see some publications and some people write stories surmising about what it could be. Did I think about doing that? Yeah, but did I feel like that? I didn't think it was moving anything forward. I felt it quite honestly, I felt it a little ragtaggy, sort of tabloid-y. Although I think it was important to spell out to the audience, here is why there is such a cone of silence. That is likely this. Listen, the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport and Curling Canada, as soon as there's a doping violation, it's like a big red button is pushed and all protocol is just sort of set in motion. So Curling Canada can't say a thing. The Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport can't say a thing. Here's what could have happened. Team Anderson could have said, Brianne's been found guilty of a doping violation and we're going to fight like hell. We don't believe it. And we think she'll be cleared of it. And we believe the findings will show that. They could have done that. They were given advice to sort of clamp up and push forward. And I think you could see it wear on them throughout the week. Journalists were trying to be respectful, but people were asking at every turn. If that happens in the United States, those athletes would have had a press conference and would have had a prepared statement, and they would have been ahead of it, and they would have won in the court of public opinion. So there's that. And then I was eventually able to break the story because her great lawyers, a shout out to Amanda Fowler, who is a crusader in safe sport and doping policy, shared with me the details of the case. And so we're in a holding pattern. They've appealed it. That process is well underway. It will go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. It can be a lengthy delay, but the last I have heard, and it's funny because I actually asked for an update today, still waiting. And I will continue to stay on it. It's on the checklist. There seems to be a level of optimism, and looking at social media, Brianne was with the team at one of the weddings. And so they're sticking tight. I am worried about them. I'm worried about the toll that would have taken navigating all of that, and what that might mean for the team moving forward. But that's sort of a little bit of the TikTok of how that all went through and why there was that silence. If Curling Canada or the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport would have said anything about it, it would have been a massive, massive breach of all protocol, all procedure. And there would have been some serious ramifications for both of those entities for sure. So they did it the right way. None of us liked it. And we finally got there because I wanted to break it as much as everybody wanted to know.
Yes. Because we were sitting there thinking too, it's like the information is going to come out eventually. But I was surprised that the team didn't say anything. And the only thing that I could come to the conclusion is that if it was about her, she maybe decided that she didn't want, it was not their information to tell, it was her information to tell, and she decided that she didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
So that's what I had assumed. So we're getting some details. I'm surprised they would have received that advice, because it seems to me that just having it all out once and then not being asked every single day would be the smarter thing for performance. And that's the other reason why I thought, okay, then it's maybe because Brianne said, don't say anything, just let the process work its way through. And, so, but it's been weird, because when I hear about that decision like this, and I think back again, the other thing I'm thinking about is like the Soccer Canada decision with our women's soccer players having the contract negotiation while they're actually at the World. It's like, who does...
How do you concentrate on what you're supposed to do when you're worried about how you're going to get paid?
Who gives this advice?
I mean, it was the players who brought that to the forefront. The women's soccer players.
Yes,
they were using that as leverage, and I think it was a misstep. I think it was a distraction. And yet they wanted to use it as leverage with the spotlight of the world on that. But I think it might have taken away a bit from performance, undoubtedly.
I think so.
They were exhausted. They were. You saw it on the videos. They were exhausted. It couldn't have been easy. So, yeah, I don't know. Everything was happening so fast. I mean, I can tell you the TikTok of it all, and Brianne was only notified, 16 hours before that statement came out, and she was there with her family in the hotel, and it's such a shock. And I think you're trying to grapple with like not being able to defend your title and go out with your team, and what the hell is happening, and what do you mean I've tested positive, inadvertently exposed to this? What does that mean to whoever I was exposed by? I don't know.
And now that we found out it's the same substance that Laurence Vincent Lapointe was exposed to all those years ago, and it is very, very, very much possible that it is an accidental contact. This is the type of substance that lends itself to being that.
It's crazy. It's the stuff you read in murder mysteries.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and she was eventually cleared as well.
Oh, and what a nightmare that was for her. I mean, what's fascinating about all of it, now that we're talking about it, for Laurence, she actually found out less than 24 hours before the World Championship, where she was supposed to clinch her Olympic spot. And Brianne was notified 24 hours before going into this big event. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It just seems a little too coincidental that these results are being exposed and revealed to the athlete right on the eve of their big events. It's
like the anxiety that would be the anxiety heaped upon someone with that kind of here, we just deliver this to you 24 hours before your
spotlight too.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like it can't be coincidental in the point that why are they not competing? Like their hands a little forced in a way, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, never a dull moment in curling. When I got on this beat years ago, I just thought it'd be a bunch of people throwing rocks at each other up and down, throwing rocks at houses. There's line in there in glass houses or something.
Yeah.
It's good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Right. The other thing with curling that's been interesting is, I'm going to sound old. I'm old enough to remember a time when the quadrennial started. You picked your quartet for the quadrennial, and you worked it out. The way that Darren Moulding was let go of seemed a little unceremonious. Brendan Botcher as well. And the teams are just they're continuously shifting. I mean, this is is this the new curling now? Because I know for a while people were wondering, because we had the strict provincial structure, whether or not now by Canada was not allowing itself to field its actual team of 4 best players.
Right.
And I know that residency rules have sort of changed around that, but I'm just not used to seeing teams flip members this quickly, this often. It's almost like trading season in hockey now.
Well, we just need a curling dating app, really.
That sounds good.
Honestly.
Shouldn't it be like this and this though?
Right.
or like this and this.
Yes.
Hurry hard.
That's good.
Whoa.
That's good. I like that.
Listen, it's a nasty, nasty sport. It's as professional a sport as it gets, without a coach and without a general manager to do the tough things, which is cut a player when you think they're not living up to what they should be.
Okay.
And it is a win now mentality. The sponsorship money is few and far between, and you're only getting it if you're going to the Olympics, quite honestly.
Okay.
And so if you're not winning now, and of course, in the case of Mark Kennedy, Ben Hebert, and Brett Gallant, they didn't think that they were going to be able to win with Brendan Botcher. And if you don't think you're going to win, and clearly Guju has their number and has figured it out, if you don't think you're going to win, you're making a change. Mm-hmm. And they believe that Brad Jacobs is going to take him to the Holy Land, and they're fired up, and whatever that does for them psychologically. I think we have to look at the entire structure of the Brier and the Scotties and the residency. Like, there are 5 teams at the Brier and 3 or 4 teams at the Scotties who are going to be there year in and year out.
Right.
You guys already know them. Every Canadian curling fan knows them. And yet we believe, you know, and I'm going to argue myself as I say this, we believe that it's this beautiful potpourri of territories and provincials, and anybody can win it. Northern Ontario went on a great run. New Brunswick goes on a great run. PEI does some great things. But at the end of the week, it's your usual gladiators. And I think I would love to see a different event go towards selecting Team Canada at the World Championships, just like we have Olympic trials. Mm-hmm. And I would like there to be some protection for the Brier and the Scotties to be truly representative of the provincial and territorial game, because that was the draw.
Right.
Glory days, that some club team from Manitoba could go and whoop, you know, Russ Howard's ass, or Burtnick or Stoughton or whoever.
Right.
That was the appeal.
Yeah, because curling has an any given Sunday nature to it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's actually, if you look at provincials, the enrollment of the teams, it's plummeted. Outside of Manitoba, it's embarrassing, because if I'm in Saskatchewan, if I'm in Alberta, if I'm Ontario, wherever I am, there's no way I'm getting past these juggernauts. So why would I even play in provincial play?
We're noticing that too. We're having trouble finding people to go play in provincials.
It killed the game. Literally, the professionalization of curling at that level killed it. Because if you can't go all in, and you don't have sponsors, and you can't compete with the juggernauts, look at all our junior curlers. Gone. People are retiring early in the sport. I think we're at a real tipping point in this country with curling, and I think we have to continue to look at more diverse communities. Mm-hmm. I think the future of curling lies in the diversity.
That's what our friend Colin said.
Yep, exactly. And we just have to have a different pathway. We have to inspire the youth to want to curl a game, because they're not, because it's a dead end. It literally is a dead end. So
I've noticed the same thing in rugby in this country. And I say this because 20 plus years ago, Canada was a well-respected rugby nation.
Yeah.
It was an amateur sport. There was no money.
Right.
For the players didn't get any money. They'd travel all over the world. They'd play, they'd compete. Team Canada was always a solid top 5 team. They were respected and expected to win. Now they're one of the bottom teams because it's all gone professional. We don't have enough pros. And rugby enrollment, because I have friends who are heavily involved in the rugby community in Ottawa, enrollment is way down. People just aren't getting into it because they're like, well, I'm never going to make the pros. I'm never going to make it, and I'm never going to win a medal. So they're like, they just don't bother. So it goes right through all the sports. So what they did to curling was not good.
No,
not good.
No. And I'm actually afraid, like I look at over this next cycle, all of the greats who are going to be retiring, and it's who are the next greats in the country? Like who are going to be those 5 or 6 household names and teams that Canadians rally behind? I'm worried about it. So,
well, if tennis is any
indication
predictor, because what happens when we lose Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic and Murray? Well, 3 of the 4 of them are gone, and Djokovic just had knee surgery, but he's still in Wimbledon, and we've got Sinner and Alcaraz, and that'll come up. So, hopefully,
I know.
But that's international, not just
well. And listen, like if Brad Gushue from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador can come out of there and be the best curler on the planet, who knows where the next great curler is? Maybe in Yellowknife, maybe in Whitehorse, like maybe in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. We don't know,
right? But
we have to plant that seed into the minds of people who just pick it up for fun, and then something sparked. There's a theme here today.
Well, it's like Andre DeGrasse.
Yes.
Right? He just went out for the heck of it. And now he's one of the greatest sprinters in the world.
Oh my God, that seems like a segue to Paris, Paul.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. When you were here last time, you predicted that Canadian women would kick butt in Tokyo. Canada had a record 24 medals, 7 gold, 7 silver, 10 bronze. 18 of the 24 medals were won by women.
Yep.
I feel like I knew what I was talking about for a split second.
I'm just saying the man knows his stuff.
Wow.
That's all.
You know what? Something today, when we were driving back, my buddy said to me, he says, Canadian women at the Olympic level kick ass, like seriously kick ass.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, the On the Podium program helped. He says, what helped more was when the media started to focus on the stories about how they got there. And now you're suddenly invested with the athlete.
Yeah.
Like Penny Alexiak's story. She wasn't expected to do anything. 1 goal. Maggie McNeil. My God. Summer McIntosh. I mean, come on. She's a transformational, once in a generation athlete.
Yeah.
Like
who could be like Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
Well, and she just beat Katie Ledecky, what, a couple of days ago? Or
a couple of months ago.
Couple of months ago?
And she was the first one to beat her at home, too.
Yes.
A little earlier.
In 13 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am so looking forward to watching Canadian women kick all the ass in the pool. And we're going to do really good on track too, by the way.
Oh my God.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, kids and cubs, if you don't know. Once again, for the second time, this fine gentleman here has got the 2 marquee sports: swimming week 1, track and field week 2. Just saying.
I have one problem. There are 2 days of overlap.
Yes.
Let me pose this on this show. On the final night, Summer could potentially be swimming for a 4th medal or a 4th gold medal on Saturday night. I think that's a 200 IM for her, which will be a hell of a race. That same night, Pierce Lepage and Damian Warner close out the
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, damn. Right?
Oh. So the potential of 4 gold medals in 1 Summer Olympics, which I think might be a record for Canadian.
Never been done.
Never.
Yes, versus someone potentially defending a Olympic title in decathlon.
And potentially going 1-2 or 1-3 or honestly, we have this conversation in our newsroom. Where where am I going to go? Can we clone me? Can I run? Can I sprint? Can I do the decathlon from the pool to Stade de France to get there to interview those guys?
Pole vault over the pool, hurdle over the fence.
Give me a cap and some false teeth, and I'll fill in for you if you need me to fly to Paris.
It's a 37-minute bike ride. I've been mapping out everything. They're going all, eco-friendly and everything. The app is incredible. 37-minute bike ride. I don't think I can pull it off. But what a crazy scenario. All that to say, I am going to be at the pool and I'm going to be trackside, and this is going to be extraordinary. We've never had depth and talent like this in the pool.
No, ever.
On the men's side, oh my God.
Josh Liendo? Holy crap.
Like, the guy is so ready. He is so mentally prepared in the 100-meter butterfly. He's going to take on his teammate, Caleb Dressel from the University of Florida, and those guys are going to duke it out. Summer's going to be great. Maggie, Kylie.
Penny.
Was that?
Penny.
Oh yeah, and
as part of the relay team, the relay teams
Penny is gonna surprise us. She was so bitterly disappointed not to make it into the individual events, but I think it's a beautiful story, a coming of age in a lot of ways. This innocent 16-year-old who wowed us all, who 8 years later, 2 Olympics later, is now the ultimate team player anchoring relays. I think it's just so Canadian and so beautiful. Doesn't her brother do something too? Or something? Yeah, I know. It's Penny's brother. That's
Penny's brother.
It's not Jamie's sister.
It's Penny's brother.
Exactly.
Which I love. I love that so much. I really do.
It's fantastic because the Canadian women, to your point, they really have made us so proud. They really have. And
winter and summer, both.
Oh yes.
Winter and summer. And in athletics, my God, on the track and the field, we're a hammer throwing nation, like Cameron Rogers.
Right.
This hammer thrower from Richmond, she is a specimen. And Ethan Gadsberg, he's a specimen. And Sarah Minton, 5'6" Spitfire from Brooklyn, Nova Scotia. She could win gold in the shot put. Christopher Morales-Williams, a 19-year-old 400-meter runner out of nowhere. He's going to go. He could win gold, you guys. He's going pro. He's going pro. When this airs, he'll just be getting ready for his first ever pro race, a Diamond League in Monaco. So everywhere you turn, it's good. It's really good. And this is going to be the Renaissance, right? The Renaissance and the birthplace of the games, Pierre de Coubertin, who reminded us that, it's not about winning, it's about showing up. And I think the Canadians are going to be ready to show up and show out in Paris. The third time the games are going to be held in the City of Light. And of course, for all you trivia fans, Canada's first ever Olympic gold medal was won in Paris. George Orton winning gold in the steeplechase 2,500 meter. 2 Canadians went to those first games in Paris, 2 men. George Orton won 2 medals for Canada, gold and a silver, the first gold medal in Canada's Olympic history. So,
wow,
I know that.
We're going to Paris. Third time is going to be a charm for the Canadians.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm curious though. Okay, just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead. The
Seine, right?
Yes.
Is it ready?
No.
Is it ready?
No. So again, when this goes to air, we're going to be 2 weeks away from the opening ceremony. It's just not ready. And the reality of it is reading between the line, it appears to me now like everybody's in on the gig and they're just going to pretend that it's fine. And the athletes are potentially going to get sick. But the race is going to happen. Listen, the IOC doesn't have the greatest track record when we look at where they hold open water events and triathlon events. I mean, they held it in a marine in Tokyo where the water was boiling. Like the water was so hot, athletes were passing out. Why? Because that was a picturesque, beautiful shot of Tokyo. And the cameras look great.
Oh, no, that's not a surprise at all. Of course. It's
Real.
But it's supposed to
Yeah.
be about the sport. Once you start messing with the sport, you're messing with the brand.
It's about this, sir.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So the
yeah,
Seine,
but the way to that is the sport. You keep it up off the sport.
no, they're gonna paddle through sludge and mud and whatever the hell else is in the Seine. What I'm more concerned about is how they think they're going to pull off this parade of nations seamlessly. The Seine 6 kilometers snaking along. How many boats going up there flawlessly? Like, you remember the Toronto Raptors parade where it was supposed to be 2 hours and turned out to be 5 hours because of all the stopping and starting.
Yeah.
Like, can't you picture that?
Well, the other thing that concerned me more than that, I mean, sure, that's going to be a nightmare. But the thing that really concerned me, and people go, "Oh, you're being alarmist." And I'm like, "But am I?" Over the years, there have been incidents that have happened in Paris.
I know.
And this is a 6 kilometer. How do you can't secure that?
You can't. I'm fully.
I'm really worried.
I am too, and I'm fully prepared to put on my breaking news cap, and
Let's hope it doesn't happen.
And let's hope, and I hope that they have the security figured out. But when I think about the security detail and the painstaking lengths they go to secure an arena or a stadium at the Olympics, I can't even wrap my head around how they think they're going to do this at a time where France is not the most stable place.
Right.
No.
At a time when the eyes of the world are on this country,
Right.
and it is in the DNA of the French to protest anything.
Yep.
Yes.
So we'll see. But, I don't know my assignment for the opening ceremony yet. I've been told I will be somewhere out there. So keep an eye on that. I have been questioning World Aquatics and the IOC about the water issues for over a year now, when they had to cancel one of the test events.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I thought on the surface it's an interesting idea, but can they actually make this happen? And something I was told just a couple of days ago, and I do not know if this is true, and I've not been able to find anything to substantiate it, but somebody said as a protest, a lot of Parisians were hurling feces directly into the river.
Yes.
Because they were angry.
Yeah.
And that's real. That did happen.
I've heard reports of this as well.
Okay.
I mean, and whatever else is in there, right? Like, they've poured billions into this, and they've talked about having this new water revitalization system and everything, and the water and the E. coli levels and the levels are still unsafe. So I can't imagine something's going to magically change.
No.
I just don't get this, because, I mean, it's open water swimming, which I have done. I went once to the National Open Water Swim Championships. Swam the 1 and the 2K events when it was in the Olympic basin and the rowing basin in Montreal.
Yeah.
It was held there. The start, first of all, with all the kicking, I guess, on the water splashing, like this, you're racing, you are definitely drinking something. I did an open water swim, I think, at Provincetown from the lighthouse to the boat slip, which is like 1.4 miles or something, like in seawater. Trust me, I was really dehydrated. I swallowed a lot of salt on the way there. Like, there's no way that none of that is being aspirated. Like, this is just a PR disaster waiting to happen.
And guess what? They don't care, because a race will happen. Somebody will get gold. Somebody will get silver. Somebody will get bronze, and the cameras will move to the next venue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, that's ruthless, but that's real.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And again, the para-athletes, the para-triathlon, Stefan Daniel out of Calgary is one of the best in the world. He's going to have to go into that as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
it's frustrating.
I think when I think about that, I think of the 2016 Olympics in Rio.
The green water.
When Zika was around. Well, the green water, number one, but Zika as well. And like Milos Raonic just said, sorry, I'm not going to play tennis. I'm going to skip this Olympics. Thank you.
A lot of people pulled out. The golfers pulled out. A lot of people pulled out. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. It's like one race, and like, who knows how much. I don't know how bad E. coli can get at. What level's that? But what?
Right.
But I
Well,
mean,
what if they have unknown allergies?
that could be like the rest of your season.
Oh,
Well, yes.
Well, you remember,
Were you
Douglas, the last summer I was we came up for a weekend, and before we left, my beloved Bridget
Yes.
said, "Let's go to the Gordownie Pier. I want to jump in." I went, "Okay." I don't have my swimsuit. She had a swimsuit. She jumped in, swam around, came out. I walked into the water up to my knees.
Yeah.
And I stuck my arms in, and then my forearms from here to here, within 15 minutes, welts, swollen, itchy, like some sort of allergic reaction to whatever was in the water, and not pleasant.
No.
So what if there's somebody on the team that has an unknown allergy and reacts to something in there
Ooh.
in the middle of a swim?
Your Olympic or Paralympic dream is over. It ends right
Yeah.
there. You know, just as an overarching theme, guys, I think what we have to be okay with is the uncomfortability that exists within the beauty of the Olympics and the ugliness of the Olympics.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truths, a lot of things that can be true all at the same time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And I think what I've been frustrated about is people who drink the Olympic Kool-Aid feel like there can be no critique of what the games are and what's running it.
Right.
And yet on the other side of it, I think there are a lot of people who are so disenchanted and so turned off by what it's become. And that breaks my heart, because I actually do believe that when you do finally get to the field of play, there is magic.
Right.
There
Right.
is magic. So I wish, as journalists, fans, sponsors, whatever, we could just be a little bit more authentic and a little bit more real about what it is and what it isn't, and be okay with that, because I think it would allow people to feel comfortable to come and enjoy the purity of sport, which at the end of the day is why I'm here, because I see what it does for people's lives and I see what it does for the community, period.
Well, you say that, and it reminds me of a few years back. John Oliver did a thing just before the World Cup, and he went into corruption, FIFA, payoffs, yada, yada, yada. And then after this 20-minute thing where he exposed all this stuff, and he says, "Now, after saying all that, I am so excited for the World Cup because I love football." And I'm like, this is it. Like, I understand the Olympic, I understand, but I still love to watch it.
Yes.
I get engaged.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
I'm sitting in front of the TV with my little flag, and
I'll be talking to both of you, and I'll be channeling all of this wholesomeness that we're cultivating here when I speak to the athletes. Just a note on that as we wind down. That's my cue.
That's good.
As I give you my last jolt of energy here, I'm going to be speaking to our athletes immediately following their competition. It is my hope and my goal personally that through my questions, Canadians feel closer to the athletes than ever, that they know the journey better than ever, and that there is a sliver, even if for a moment, when I'm asking them questions, that when people are listening to the answers, it allows them to reflect on their own life, and to perhaps revisit unfinished dreams in their own life, but also to confront what it means to be human, and to have joy and have sorrow and experience all of those things. I think if I can do that when I speak to our athletes in their moments of triumph and their moments of defeat, and have the audience feel that as we all take that in together, I think that will be a good Olympics for me. I'll be happy with that, because I think I want to play a role in changing the way we view athletes and view this entire experience. So I'm excited about that opportunity, because I really feel like I know these athletes and I know what they represent to humanity, you know?
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. Before we let you go, I have one last question.
Okay.
Because we talked about swimming, we talked about athletics.
Yes.
But there are so many other sports. Who should we be watching out for?
Here's my hot take. I'm getting more comfortable with saying it. The Canadian men's basketball team shocks the USA for gold.
Oh, you know what? That is not a stretch. That's not a stretch
It's
either.
not a stretch.
I think, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah. I think that's very possible.
I've been test running this, and I actually almost get the same reaction every time where it's like, oh shit, did he just say that? And then what? Wait a second. We got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have been MVP of the NBA. Jamal Murray, Olynyk, Dort. We got a chance. We got a chance.
Okay. I'm feeling you.
So there's that. I think the Canadian women's soccer team, who knows what Bev Priestman will inspire in this team. And once you have it in your body that you're a champion, that doesn't go away very quickly. It's in the fiber of your being. It's in the fiber of your being. So watch out for that. Oh my God, beach volleyball. Brandon Wilson, Melissa Humana-Paredes, our women's 3-on-3 basketball team. Phil Wizard breaking for the first time. He could win it all. I mean, that's going to be pretty cool. I could go on and on.
Mike's surprise call is watch out for Gabriela Dabrowski.
Oh,
tennis.
Yes.
She's at a career high 3 in the world right now. And Leila Fernandez is also doing quite well in doubles. And they'll be pairing up in doubles.
I was going to say doubles. And wouldn't that be something if they went on a great run? And Bianca is playing great tennis as well.
Yes, she is. She is. So is Leila individually. They're all sort of like peaking right around this time.
I don't think we've given enough love to tennis. So yeah, I would say that's a good bet. You know, the medal predictions came out. Grace notes. I
saw that. 20. What?
I want to burn it up. I'm like, where the hell? Why aren't you talking to me for this thing? Because
there's so many names.
I honestly believe I might be a little drinking the Kool-Aid between swimming and athletics. If things go well, Canada can win 16 to 18 medals between the pool and the track and field.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Just those two.
Yeah.
If it goes well, that could happen.
Yes. Like right off the bat, I kept on thinking like that 24. That's going to be smashed.
I think so.
I think we could beat it. I think we could beat
Maybe not smashed, but beat, because 24 is a lot.
And I can't wait to see what surprises arrive.
Well, yeah.
But before we go,
please,
Paralympic shout out. We're less than 50 days away now. I want to give a shout out to the Canadian wheelchair basketball teams. They've got these for sale. So if you want to support the team, you got to do that. They're beautiful on the front and back. This, for all intents and purposes, is probably going to be the last time we see one of the greatest wheelchair basketball, if not the best, Patrick Anderson, the Michael Jordan of wheelchair basketball, 45 years old, getting ready for his 6th Paralympics. Wow. He's done it. He's leading this team in. The women's team, I think, could win gold. I think it's going to be a USA-Canada showdown, and I think the Canadians can win. And lastly, I want to end with the inspirational story very quickly of Jacob Wasserman, the Humboldt Broncos bus crash survivor, who had it planned that he was going to LA 2028, had only taken up para rowing for a year. He's going to Paris. I spent time with him on the South Saskatchewan, back home in Saskatoon, which was an experience in itself. I'll never forget Jacob Wasserman telling me as he maneuvered himself out of the wheelchair into the boat, and he said, here, I get to forget about my disability. I get to leave it at the dock.
Yeah.
And he gets to glide over that water, and he gets to move, the freedom of movement. And the last thought I have for you is it's become crystallized to me, the magic of the Paralympics. And what it is, you guys, is it's these athletes' ability to reimagine what success looks like in their life. Because how many of us have told ourselves a story of what success is going to look like in our life, only to have it not turn out the way we thought it would, and never be able, in a lot of cases, to pivot and to embrace the new journey, and the new story.
It's hard.
Jacob Wasserman, for 18 years of his life, believed he was going to one day lift the Stanley Cup and wear the maple leaf for Canada at the Olympics in hockey. He was a #1 goaltender. He was being called up to the Western Hockey League. That was his life. And then it was all shattered.
Yep.
And in the span of a few short years, this guy has rose up, has rewritten his story, and has served as a reminder to us all that it's never too late to pivot, to never quit, to be resilient, and to just kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep having big dreams. Reach.
And he's done that.
Yeah.
And when he competes with his wife watching him and his family watching him, he's going to have an entire nation at his back. And that wind is going to be pushing him to the finish line. It is powerful stuff. That is sport. That's the Paralympics. That's the Olympics. And my God, am I blessed to have a front row seat to all of it.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
I'm glad you see it that way, though, because it's an honor and a privilege to have that, right? Not a lot of people get that. And that's not taken away from the fact that you've worked your butt off to get there. To be there at that front seat for that's an honor.
To this day, I wake up with a fear of God in me of how can I be better today for these athletes. I've never taken it for granted for a second because I get paid to watch sports and talk about it.
That's the greatest gig in the world, right?
Yeah, and it's a grind, and I do work hard, but I'm a lucky one. I'm a lucky one, and and I'm also grateful for you both for having me.
Thanks, brother.
So happy for you.
Thanks for coming in.
You know what? I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but if before leaving you have something you would like to say about Scott Russell, please do. But otherwise, I want to respect you have to go.
Here's what I'll say. Scott Russell, for nearly 4 decades, let us all know as Canadians that we should be immensely proud of our Olympians and Paralympians. You won't meet a bigger champion of amateur sport. And I'll never forget one of the meetings we had. Scott is the elder statesman, so he's normally giving a rallying cry in those meetings, where he said there isn't a program maybe in the world on network television week in and week out that covers the stories we cover of amateur sport and amateur athletes. I worked my first games alongside Scott at the Olympics and Paralympics in 2018 in Pyeongchang. And it was at that moment he made me realize that both are equal, both deserve the respect and recognition on equal footing. And I'm so grateful that he instilled that to me. I saw him in action the first time ever at the Briar in 2004. I was a CBC intern. That's when CBC did the championships. They did the opening live. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't packaged. They did it live. Over the loudspeakers, the same mic in the broadcast was over the loudspeakers. And Scott Russell in 2004, 20 years ago, walked and talked. And I looked at that and I went, how do I do that? How do I work with him? And all these years later, I get to work alongside Scott in his last broadcast ever. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. And
that's fantastic.
It's going to be a big moment.
It's going to be a big moment. And I know Scott's going to give his best. And boy, you look at the comments when he announced his retirement, I don't think a bad word was said. And at this time, in this life, in this world we're in now, to have a clean slate like that says everything about the guy. So class act, he's guided our ship for 40 years, and now he set sail for one final games, and it is an honor to be doing it with him.
What a great way to go out, though, right? Just a great way to go out with the Olympics. It's like, I'm doing this, and then I'm gone. I'm like, that's the swan song, right? That's the perfect way to do it.
Mic drop, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Devin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your joy. It's so much fun to talk sports. It really is.
I love it.
Time just flies by.
Well, I know.
And it's so easy.
I initially said, let's see where we're at 30 minutes. And
so really appreciate the time. travel safely, have a great time, enjoy it like this, and just bring us back every single story you can. Because like if you're reporting it, we want to hear it.
Well, more than anything else, enjoy these
Yes.
summer Macintosh games.
The summer games.
The summer of summer. I love it.
It really is. It really is.
Thanks, guys. Awesome.
All right.
Take care, sir.
Bye. Gotta love that guy.
Love that guy. Once again, just comes in here, knocks it right out of the park, keeps us engaged and wanting to, like, we could go on for a couple more hours if we had the time. He doesn't, you don't, I don't, but like I'm on vacation and I'm sitting here going, I can keep going. I can keep going. We got so much to talk about.
So much.
Well, and again, I've said this before, and I talked to my buddy about this today. I said, I don't know anything about curling, and I never was much interested in it. But his passion for the sport made me want to watch it. Again, I still don't know a damn thing about it, but the way he describes it, his enthusiasm, his love of it, it's like, I'm hooked. And again, don't know anything about it. Is that a button or a home or I don't know. To take it to the house, I don't know. When I played curling, it was like I thought I had to hit them as hard as I could. That was 35 years ago. Was the last time I curled. But I'll watch it on television every now and then, and I do get the incredible gifts and the incredible skill set it takes to curl that stone all the way down. And you're not seeing what we see on TV. I'd love to have like a GoPro on somebody as they're throwing the rock.
Oh yeah.
So we can see their perspective.
Right.
Of what they see. And then you see how the rock just curls right in. I'm like, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And the way he's described the sport and his enthusiasm for it has made me interested in it. Again, will it ever be a level of, say, CFL or NHL interest or Olympic interest? Probably not. But I went from 0 to, hey, at least 75 miles an hour here, So, yeah. And again, it's all because of his enthusiasm for the sport. It made me interested in it. So, hats off to him.
Yes, I am going to make a bold call.
Oh,
I didn't want to say it while he was here because I didn't want to embarrass him. But I have no doubt that one day he will be sitting in Scott Russell's chair.
Oh yeah, I fully agree. Fully agree.
We'll be turning on Olympic Morning and go, "Hi, welcome to Olympic Morning or Olympic Prime Time." Like this.
Now that is if he wants to transition.
If he wants to, because he might love to be closer to the athletes.
Well, Steve Armitage did track and field and swimming for what 40 years?
Yeah,
because he loved it.
Absolutely
he loved it.
Yes.
So it's entirely possible. Yes, I'm sure someday he could take that chair if he wanted it. But
yes.
Maybe he likes being in the pits, right?
Or not, he will be offered it at some point.
Oh, I have no doubt.
I have
no doubt whatsoever. Yeah, no doubt whatsoever.
No doubt. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir. We do indeed.
And of course, I was wearing my Olympic wear.
Well,
yes.
I was just wearing a green shirt. I think it's the same one I wore this morning, is it? I don't know. It's been a long day.
I'm
having a beer.
Theme. Yes. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, Olympic Edition. Da, 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 da. Here on the Crier Media Network. We hope that you enjoyed listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you would like to support us, you can do that by, for example, not missing an episode. If you go to our pod page, sponsored by the Ray Girl, you can do that by scanning that QR code or going to podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. If you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And if you would like to support us in other ways, if Kit Elaine were here, she would say, hey, make sure you travel on down to the True North Eager Beaver YouTube media page and smash those buttons. Like, share, subscribe. We have all 3 of them for you. They're just waiting for you. Tickle our ivories. And if you would like to help us in other ways, the QR code that is by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to the coffee page where you will find the Emergency Hydration Fund. That's where you can leave a little tip for us if you enjoy the content that we provide. And that way we keep our throats moist.
Look, this morning when I woke up, the humidity was at 18%.
Yes. Keep
That's
Mr.
really
Grizzly.
dry.
Yes. So help Mr. Grizzly out. Send money. Okay.
I mean, dude, I'm used to Ottawa minimum. If 50% is considered low in Ottawa, right?
Right.
It was 35 degrees last night, and the sun set somewhere around 10 o'clock. And by 11, the temperature had dropped by about 10 degrees. It was 4 this morning when I woke up at 4:30.
Yeah.
So it dropped by 31 degrees. I'm not used to that.
Right where we are right now, there's at least 75% humidity in the house right now. It is sticky. It's like when I have a feeling that when we stop recording and I rise from the seat in order to go on with the rest of the evening, there will be a peeling sound.
I don't know if that's going to show up or not. Maybe not. No, it won't show up. It's
I saw 3 as the first number, but
well, it's 28 feels like 31.
20.
It's
Okay.
44% humidity here in Calgary right now, which
That's
is
high for Calgary.
It is high for Calgary. Ironically, the other day it was 72, and I was like, "Good God, people must be dying," because that's abnormally humid for Calgary. But I was like, "Oh, this feels great. I feel like I'm home."
I'm built for this. Oh man. So yeah, our coffee page. If you would like to help us there, we would really appreciate that, because democracy is something that you do. Hey, why not read up on some of the members of our Canadian Olympic team? If you go to the website olympic.ca
and the Paralympic team.
And the Paralympic team as well. If you go to olympic.ca, you will find everything that you need to know, the teams, who's been nominated to the teams. I think most of the teams are fully formed. There might be a couple more in track and field that could be announced late. I don't remember her name, but there was a young lady at the Nationals on the last day who did really well in the 100 meter.
There was a young lady from Ottawa who is, I think, 16.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about.
Yes, she might be on the team at 16. Because I was reading about that the other day, and I was like, go out there and kick some butt, man. Represent O-Town. Capital city, baby.
Right? So, yeah, I wish I could remember her name. I think it was on Devin's feed.
She had long pink hair, and I loved it. Long pink hair.
Oh, man. Can't find it for the life of me.
That's okay.
And that was I had a whole list of other questions I was going to ask him about that too. It's like, do you know if she's been nominated yet? Because that would be a really cool story, just like popping up, because the track and field, that the trials are so close to the Olympics themselves.
They really
all
are.
of a sudden it's like, oh boy, you made the standard, and you can go, wow, out of the blue. Who are you?
One of the things that I have a thought about having the trials so close to the Olympics that concerns me is, every race you have the potential for injury.
Right.
Having them that close to the Olympics, you have an injury, you're not going to have time to recover and compete. So I've always questioned why they do it so close.
Yep. Yep. I hear you. I hear you. I wonder about that
because it is a sport, but it is a sport where you could be running down the track and the foot is out just the ever tiniest little bit, there goes your knee or an ankle or something, right? It happens. It's
Indeed.
a sport where it's a sport where what would seem like a tiny injury can literally shave tenths of a second off your time, which is the difference between gold and nothing.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah,
that's my sort of thought and take on it. But
All right. Because democracy is something that you do, like I said, read up on all that kind of stuff. And I believe I have to say now, from the Beaver Lodge, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
I'm going to say the same thing I said on Monday morning show, which technically is this morning because this is taped on a Monday and recorded for Friday airing. But I'm going to say the same thing because in Western Canada right now, it is heat wave territory. And a lot of the dwellings in this part of the country do not have air conditioning. So please keep hydrated, keep out of the sun if you can. If you have to go out, pay attention to how much water you've had, pay attention to how much exercise you've had. Get into air conditioning if you can to cool your body down, because I don't want to see people getting hurt because they're ill prepared for this type of weather.
I found it, Mr. Grizzly.
Did you?
Yes. I don't know if you are able to put the picture up.
I can do that. Just let me
But I
do
did
this
find
right
it.
here.
There you
That's
go.
the photo. Yep.
That's
That's
her.
the photo. Can you
So,
blow that up a little bit? Is it possible?
Yeah,
to?
hold on. I will blow it up a little more. There you go.
Excellent.
That should do. There you go. One of the best stories to unfold last night. This was June 29th, so probably did on June 28th if he said last night. At trials was the performance by 16-year-old, I think it's called
Jurai
Opong Nikitia, was in grade 10. She won the under 20 100-meter title. Her time of 11:39 would have placed third in the senior final. Might she be considered for the 4x100 relay team in Paris?
Well,
Hey,
way to go, Jurai.
absolutely.
Like that's awesome.
Just that's the good stuff right there.
That is the good stuff.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Oops, I was mic'd. I was muted. Sorry. Muted. So if I'm not mistaken, I think when this airs, we'll be at exactly 50 days before the start of the Olympics.
No,
not 50 days. What am I saying?
Paralympics.
Yes.
Paralympics is in 50 days. The Olympics are July 26th.
July 26th, exactly. Sorry. Thank you. I got that wrong. Now, there are a few events that will start early as the 24th. I believe that there will be some soccer matches and a couple of other things that start. So even though the official opening ceremonies are on the 26th, if you don't want to miss a thing, start looking at your TV guide, your guides on your, I was going to say your TV guide, like we still have magazines, but the TV guide that's programmed.
Let me get my phone book and check the yellow pages.
I'll fold the map and get my watch. Call you on the rotary phone. Old. But yeah, for the real aficionados who don't want to miss a moment, there will be events as early as the 24th.
That's correct.
All right. Yeah. Mr. Grizzly, have a great rest of vacation.
Well, I certainly will, and I will see you soon.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye.